Hey everyone, Chris Bentley here. I'm the host of Social 333 podcast. Today, my guest, Josh Claudio.
Woo! Hey,
Josh. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. This is a cool setup. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on. For everybody that's watching, listening, tell us more about you. What do you do? What about you is amazing?
Oh man. All right. Let's talk about what makes me amazing. First of all, I like to think I'm a super dad. Got two amazing kids. I got 12-year-old Bennett, my daughter's Madeline. She's 8, and my beautiful wife Meredith. And on professionally, I'm a mortgage broker. This is my 20th year in the business, so it's been a fun ride. 20 years. I know I look like I'm 25, but 20 years into it. This is my 20th year, so always learning, always growing. It's been a fun profession. It definitely tests you on a number of levels, but ultimately it's helped shape me to who I am today, and I think it's been a blessing. So that's a few things that make me awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I know you personally, so I can dive into some stuff too. So
yeah, man,
we've done some real estate deals together as well.
Yeah, I'm an open book. Fire away.
Awesome. I think the biggest thing when you get into mortgages is going to be rates. I mean, when I was in mortgages and I was doing back in those days, like the refi boom and that kind of stuff, the biggest thing is the rate. People just shop around rates and stuff like that. For me, and our audience, what is it right now? I know rates are, kind of high. Let's just talk about rates in the beginning. How do people get rates? I know the Fed speaks and rates drop and all this stuff. Is that really true, or is it something different?
Yeah, so when the Fed speaks and they talk about lowering the federal funds rate, that always triggers phone calls to me. But when the Fed lowers federal funds rate, that's short-term rates, or as a mortgage, that's a 30-year note typically. So there's some parallels with it, but it's when the Fed speaks and says they lower rates, that doesn't mean mortgage rates are dropping. So really, if you want to track where mortgage rates are going, look at the yield on the 10-year Treasury bond, or I'll plug my website, legacygrouphomeloans.com. I got a rate tracker in there, so you can see what today's market rates are on a number of different products. You can see trends. I'm a finance guy. I'm a data nerd, so I like looking at charts. So if anyone just wants a quick snapshot of that, then check out my website. So sorry, I've been doing this for a minute. I'm already plugging my stuff. So That's cool. I know for myself, I'm self-employed. So is there a program that's either self-employed or just regular W-2 employee? Is there some program right now that's just the hot ticket? Is there just something that's everybody needs to know about, not many people are taking advantage of, and you can just take it and run with it? Yeah. I've got several programs for self-employed folks. So really, I put them into two categories: ones that show their income and the others that don't. So being self-employed, your business is typically your biggest tax shelter because you're writing off every expense you can, and ultimately, it's just to lower your tax burden. So again, that's within the IRS code, so definitely do it. It just makes it more difficult to get a traditional home loan. So for those self-employed folks that do document their income, report every penny to the IRS, then typically I want to go a full document loan route. So that's where we document your income with business tax returns, personal tax returns. Sometimes we'll need a CPA letter. Whereas the folks that use their business as a tax shelter, I've got a really neat program where what we do is we take the net deposit into their business checking account, plug that in this calculator, and it tells us what your qualifying income is. And you're probably thinking, well, how do you calculate net deposits? So your gross deposits is what you bring in on a monthly basis anyways. So the default calculation for your expense, it's called an expense ratio, is 50%, meaning whatever your deposits are on that monthly basis,
then we're going to take 50% of that and use that as your qualifying income. Or if you get a CPA letter, we can lower that expense ratio, which consequently that gets you approved for a higher purchase price. So, for example, I actually did one of these loans for an architect where on paper he lost $80,000 a year.
Wow.
But with that bank statement loan, he's house shopping for an $800,000 home right now. So of course he tried to get a loan at his bank and they told him to take a hike. So, and one of his buddies was, how did I meet that guy? My father-in-law's friend's friend. So he connected him with me, and this guy, he thought his price point was like maybe $400,000, $450,000. I was like, hey, go find you $800,000 house. That's really what he wanted. Well, not necessarily what he wanted. It's what his wife wanted. Mm-hmm. So of course that moved the needle up, and of course I'm the hero. So he's out house shopping right now. So
that's great. That's great. Now let's like flip the script a little bit. So I know you got people that, have good credit, good income, like you're just talking about that. Mm-hmm. Just maybe like they're not just showing all the income because they're self-employed. What about people that just like have bad credit? Like I'm talking about, under 600, 500 credit score, just people that need help. Do you offer any programs for that? Or is like there anything that you have like in your magic toolbox kind of deal that you can like just help people with? Because that's the biggest thing is a lot of people just have bad credit or they have poor education on like what to do with their credit. And they just, there's a lot of scams out there. Maybe they got ripped off. Like, do you have something that like you can offer to people to help get their credit up and be able to afford a home?
Yeah. So, I mean, credit is one of the biggest barriers of entry to buying a house. So you got credit, income, and assets. We kind of touched on income and what that barrier of entry is and how to overcome it. With credit's a little more tricky because there's a number of variables that goes into, hey, why is your credit bad or what happened? I mean, typically it's got to be like some kind of life-changing event, like whether it's loss of job, loss of income, loss of spouse, something like that, versus it being like just kind of being reckless financially, like if you got a gambling problem. So that's right. So really when an underwriter looks at somebody with the credit score within 500 to 600 range, they want to know the story because, I mean, let's face it, these people are borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And of course, the banks wants to protect their money, make sure they're actually going to get paid back. So they look at the full file. There's got to be some compensating factors. But I do have loan programs that finance as low as a 500 credit score, but it does have to have some compensating factors like either a larger down payment, some extra cash in the bank, something of that nature, maybe a low debt ratio. So we look at really a bigger picture when it comes to those. But yeah, those are a little bit high risk because ultimately your credit score, that's really your risk grade, and it also dictates the interest rate that you're going to qualify for.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I run into a lot of that where just either bad education or like just mismanagement of funds or, they had to co-sign on a car for their girlfriend or significant other or something like that, and then they end up, repossessing the car, and it's just a lot of, I don't know, I think mismanagement of funds or just miseducation as well. So that's good to hear that you actually have some programs. Like, walk us through what it would be like, or just, because I know a lot of the audience members are just kind of like just trying to understand a little bit of like, or they'd have some understanding already of what you do, but like, talk about like a challenging scenario that you run through where somebody's like purchasing a home and it gets haywire, like, because I'm on the receiving end of that because I'm trying to get my deal done and close, and you're like kind of like stuck in the middle because the seller's agent's yelling at you. I'm like, hey Josh, where are we at? And then you have just a tough deal in the beginning, in the middle, I should say, kind of like sandwiched. Like, kind of talk about that a little bit. Like, what kind of goes through your mindset? What's what's going on in a day-to-day thing? Like, how do you like just overcome it? Like, give us like an example if you got one.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have plenty of examples of that. I always preface every deal, and when I set expectations, is like, hey, every deal has its own degree of turbulence. So you've been on a flight before, right? You felt turbulence. But you know what? You've landed every flight you've been on. That's how this is going to be. So sometimes there may be a delay. It may be out of my control. It may be in my control. It may be in your control. But ultimately, we're going to get you where you're going. We're going to land you safely. We all have a common goal here, and we got me, you, the buyer's agent, the listing agent. Everybody wants to see this happen. So just know you're not flying solo here. You got a whole team to get you where you're going. So most recently, had a first-time home buyer. They were getting funds gifted to them, and it was an FHA loan. So with an FHA loan, you have to have the gifter's bank statement, which they didn't want to provide because they didn't want their kids to know what they're spending money on. And so really I had to speak directly with the parents because they didn't want their kids in their business. And yeah, it turns out I wouldn't say it's nefarious. I guess the dad had a girlfriend that the kids didn't know about that
like a side piece.
We didn't get into that, but it was he
on the low.
He alluded to it, and I'm just like, dude, I just want your bank statement. I don't need to know the story of your expenses. I just need to show that where these funds are coming from.
Right.
So, but yeah, I guess now that the deal's done, I'll call them back to get some closure for you to see if that was.
I don't need to know, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, we just so you guys know, like me and Josh, we share an office together, so we definitely have some jokes between us. So
some of them are funny too. So.
Yeah,
not all of them.
Not all of them, but some of them are funny. Yeah, I mean, we just like give us a couple other. I mean, we've had some funny ones. Like we had one recently where the gentleman that was purchasing the home got into a fight with somebody at his work, like his boss or something, and we couldn't get tell that story. Not the person's name, obviously, but
yeah, we're trying to verify this guy's employment because so part of the loan application process is that you have to get 2 years of employment history. So this guy worked at like an AutoZone or something, or Jiffy Lube, and hey man, we need to verify your employment. He's like, no, you can't call there. I'm like, do you want this house? He's like, yeah. Well, then I need to call there. Like, who's your contact there? He's like, man, I'd rather you not. So he wouldn't give me the guy's name or the phone number or the location that he worked at. So I just start calling every Jiffy Lube or AutoZones and Farmers Branch.
There's like a million.
Yeah. They're like a Starbucks over there, so they're on every corner. And finally, I find the location, and they're like, oh, hey, that's the guy that got in a fist fight with the manager. I was like, what kind of disagreement can you be in?
Like a full-out brawl.
Yeah, so he got fired, and but I'm thinking, like, what can transpire at a Jiffy Lube to make you want to fight somebody?
Like angry about something.
Yeah. I think about all the interactions I've had in my 45 years, and nothing's triggered me to want to just fight somebody. So it's much less at my employer. So it's like, I get maybe things could happen at a bar or something. Somebody's running their mouth, but at work, trying to make a living, trying to do oil changes or whatever. Like, hey, now's a good time to fight, especially my boss of all people.
Especially you need that verification of employment as well. So,
yeah. So that took
some time.
Yeah, it took a little bit of extra time, and that was a tricky one. That was one of the more entertaining deals. I guess we were dealing with some characters with that one, so that one definitely had some headwinds. And on top of that, that's another one where we had a gift because these folks were like $500 short for closing. So that one had some turbulence. They ended up getting a gift from mom for $500 so they could meet the.
And it wasn't easy, by the way.
No, it wasn't. This lady was, that was an interesting couple. She was pretty sweet and laid back, but he is kind of high strung.
Yeah.
I guess high strung enough to beat up your boss at Jiffy Lube.
So now we talked about that. Like, have you had any interactions with celebrities? Like, I know I get celebrity call, just professional ball players that come into town, need to train for a short period of time, and then they fly back out. Have you run into any of that, or YouTubers, anything like that?
Yeah, I have. It's professional athletes more than anything. One of my agents, she's connected with the Dallas Cowboys, so. Funny story about that is one of the Cowboys receivers was under contract for a house in Starwood, and the draft was that weekend. Again, this guy's under contract for like a $900,000 house in Frisco, and he gets traded for draft picks.
Wow. Like that night.
Yeah, so I want to say he got traded on a Saturday, and yeah, he was under contract the previous Monday. I'm like, man, look at this kid. He's 22 and he's a millionaire. I mean, this is cool. And he's like, yeah, man, come up to the Star. We'll hang out. And yeah, I didn't get to hang out with them at the Star.
So he got traded.
He got traded. And then I did mostly professional athletes. As far as like famous people, I don't know, maybe local celebrities. I did a loan for
you don't have to name the name.
Yeah, one of the guys on Sports Talk Radio.
Oh, cool.
And it was kind of, I kind of geek out because the dude just literally does what you and me are doing right now, just talks about sports, which, I mean, any dude would want that job. And then the guy was a professional athlete on top of that.
Nice.
He's married, his wife with this, she's a doctor too. I was like, man, this guy's just living the charm life, professional athlete. He gets to talk sports all day. His wife is stunning, but yeah, he couldn't have been any cooler. It was just like me and you talking, just dude talk. So, and then who else? Oddly enough, I had a client that it was a dude client that was an OnlyFans model.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm an entertainer. I'm like, I didn't know who the guy was. I was like, oh, cool. Where have I seen you work? He's like, you probably haven't seen my work. I'm like, okay. So I reached out to his realtor. I was like, hey, this guy says he's an entertainer. Where do you know this guy from? I was like, oh, he works out at my gym. I was like, but so what's his entertainment like specialty? And then he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't, I'm not going to look into that.
All right.
Yeah. But this guy was making some money though. So
that's dope.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's got I guess some people use that as a side hustle. This guy was able to make a living doing it. So
yeah, that's great.
I mean, yeah, it's nothing that.
It's crazy how much money is in the internet right now, like just online, not just with OnlyFans. I'm just talking about like just general, like just online doing anything. It's just, there's a lot of money to be made.
There really is. And it's kind of uncharted territory. It's interesting to me that really, like TikTok influencers, that wasn't a profession 10 years ago. Nobody goes to college to learn how to
shoot.
Do TikTok stuff. But I think it's kind of interesting to live through the evolution of the internet and how it's monetized. And I just look at, I don't know if you saw that Dude Perfect special. I think it's at ESPN 30 for 30, where those dudes just started out doing trick shots in their backyard, and now it's grown to this huge empire. I mean, yeah, and those are great dudes too. So, but yeah, just think about all the kind of spin-offs from that and what people are doing now. I mean, even like the impact of what podcasts are having right now. I mean, you look at the last election, they're saying that was kind of what helped Trump connect with more folks, was him doing the podcast circuit, doing Theo Vaughn and Rogan, and I don't even know what else he did, but he seemed like he was everywhere all the time. And I think it's a cool way to reach new people or grab new audiences. And so, and yeah, it's been, I don't know, you think about our lifetime, just the way that you connect with people on the masses, it's really changed from, I don't know, I remember not having cable TV. We only had like 5 channels.
Yeah.
So our entertainment options are limited versus what my kids have access to. So
at any time too.
At any time, and everything's on demand too. So I just think about, if we're watching our favorite TV show, we had to sprint to the bathroom and not wash our hands and run back to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Right.
So
there was no replays.
Yeah. And then that came out where you could program your VCR to. Man, I'm sounding like a dinosaur right now.
That's cool. We're in the same boat. So I know you talked a little bit about sports. You have a background in sports. Like, talk a little bit about that and kind of like, kind of walk people through your background in sports. And I also know that you're a Christian man, so you're into church. So kind of give us a background on that. So people kind of get more
familiar with you and understand your background.
Yeah. So I always joke with people I'm a washed up athlete. So I played baseball since I was 5 years old. I recently just quit. I was playing old man baseball leagues up until 2 years ago. Just my body told me I needed to stop. Really, my knees did. My arm's still good. I just can't run or do anything that requires athletic ability. So baseball has been a blessing my whole life. So when I was 14, my family moved to Dallas from Oklahoma. And I went to Poteet High School. I was on that baseball team for 2 years. Caught a future major leaguer with Jason Jennings when I was there. And then my folks bought a house in Lake Highlands my senior year. So it's on that baseball team too. I actually met my wife in high school because my parents bought a house 3 doors down from her. So kind of interesting because that kind of ties back to what I do now, just how real estate can really impact people's lives. So at Lake Highlands, I played well. I always had a strong arm. I was just a skinny kid. I didn't put on my man weight till I was 25. So I had a few offers. I did get quite a few recruiting letters. I ended up going to TCU, which was that was a fun experience. But I mean, kind of like every other knucklehead high school kid, you think you're hot stuff in high school, and you go to college, and then hey, you know what? There's a dude that outweighs you by 50 pounds, and like I couldn't grow facial hair. I remember the other freshman there, kid from Marshall, Texas. This kid, he had a full beard by our 8 a.m. class.
Wow.
And here I was just trying to grow a peach fuzz stash. And I mean, this dude was a man. I was still a boy, even though I was, regardless of how much I ate, I didn't know anything about nutrition. Like I just figured, hey, I'll go to CC's and eat at the buffet for an hour and I'll put on weight because I'm just taking in calories. Whereas now, of course, there's way smarter ways to go about it, but I didn't know about nutrition. I did get in the weight room. That was fun because I saw the biggest impact. So before, I'd always been a decent athlete, but once I got in the weight room, I could dunk a basketball all of a sudden. I could run fast, and I was like, oh man, this is why those guys do it. And that's when I fell in love with just working out, but just because I could see the impact on how it helped me perform on the field. And now as a 45-year-old dad, it helps me be a better dad. I mean, for me, it's your health isn't just for me, it's also for my family. I need to give them the best that I can. So with that, ended up transferring to Oklahoma Wesleyan University because, again, the dude that was just bigger and stronger than me was getting all the reps, and all I cared about was playing baseball then. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a smaller school, and it's in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. So it's kind of a culture shock because you think about, I mean, just as a 19-year-old kid then, you're at a place like TCU where the girl-to-guy ratio is 60-40, or was back then. I don't know what it is now. And then going to a high school like Lake Highlands, I mean, there are pretty girls running all over the place. And then going to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, to Oklahoma Wesleyan University, there were some very, very nice girls there. But, I mean, let's face it, like Dallas women, they're on another level. And I was like, okay, you know what? We'll check out the lay of the land, and maybe there's a cute girl, and yeah, who knows? I'll keep my options open, you know, and yeah, it just ended up. I stayed with Meredith through my whole high school or my whole college career. She was at University of Oklahoma, so we do the long distance thing, and from there, I just played in my 4 years of baseball there. I did 5 years in college. Yeah, I got to play baseball the whole time, which was a blast. I got a degree, and since it was affiliated with the Wesleyan Church, we had chapel 3 days a week. So because of that, they'd always bring an alumni to come in and preach at chapel. So I started grading preachers. So I wanted them to be engaging because they'd all go up on stage with their Bible. I'm like, who's actually going to open up their Bible? Who's actually going to read the word versus story time? Nice. So for me, I enjoy the study of the Bible because it's a really profound book. Even now, I still look into it, like this whole, not to get political, but this immigration thing, because it says love your neighbor all over the Bible. And And as I'm digging into that, because it affects me, because I'm Hispanic, you hear about people getting deported just because they're speaking Spanish. I don't know how much truth there is to that. But ultimately, there's a passage, it's Romans 13, and it talks about how if you're wherever you are, you got to obey the local laws, or you're going to face the wrath of those laws. And that whoever the elected officials are, they're put there by God. So if you disobey the local laws, then you're disobeying God. So to me, so again, I struggled with that, and I just dug into, I went to BibleGateway.com and just said, okay, what did I look up? I think it was government administration, or I don't know, some obscure search in there. And that kind of spoke to me, because it was funny, because I brought up love thy neighbor, but that's like in the next section down. So it's basically obey the law, or you're going to face the consequences of disobeying the law. So that's something that I learned at Wesleyan, because I have my own personal convictions, and then I make sure that they align with biblical like teachings. So, and that was, I mean, I guess that's part of anyone's spiritual journey, because everybody, they react in a self-serving way. That's just human nature. But for me, I think that's the difference. If you have Christ in your heart, you're selfless to me. So like I always preach to my kids, have gratitude, be selfless. And it's just, again, gratifying that, hey, I'm living my life. Yes, I'm doing what's best for me, but also I am looking out for my neighbor. So, and that's just part of being selfless. I mean, in our business, it's, sometimes that's what you need to do to get a deal done.
Right.
And also there's, certainly a number of characters in our business, and it's just, whether that's good or bad, but it's still, okay, I'm still going to be kind. I'm not. And selfishly, I'm kind because it makes me feel good. But also, I'm like, okay, when's the last time somebody loved on this person? Or like during COVID, there's one guy, you're familiar with Dan, always shows up with.
Yeah, you can't really say, but
yeah, Dan. So Dan, he's, goodness, Dan's probably in his 70s. And I know Dan would always go to these real estate events because there's always food there. And of course, during COVID, all these events stopped. So I just had it in my heart. I just reached out to him. I was like, Dan, you okay, man? How you been? What's going on? And in typical Dan fashion, he goes, yeah, I'm okay. That's a terrible Dan impersonation. But anyway, he's got this draw. I can't imitate it really well, but he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm staying busy. I was like, good for you, man. I was like, where are you dining nowadays? And I guess he discovered Uber Eats, and he's getting food delivered every day.
Nice.
Which, yeah, I think that'd be nice, but I'd get tired of it. But anyways, it was something that I thought about during COVID, because I was like, yeah, he's an older gentleman. I don't know that he's got a spouse or anything like that. And I wonder who's looking out for him.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. Again, it's just your kindness, whether you want to call it selfish kindness, but it made me feel good that I was that guy to reach out to somebody like that. So, so with my faith, I mean, I have that. I'm Legacy Group Home Loans for a reason, because the Bible says a wise man leaves his children's an inheritance. And I think real estate is probably the easiest path for that. Because I look back at my parents, they bought that house in Lake Highlands for $125,000.
Wow.
It's a little 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths. And that house is probably like $700,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah, just to think, like in 1996, my parents would own a $700,000 house one day. That seems impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I mean, yeah, that's part of their legacy, because I know that when they pass on, they're going to leave that to me and my brothers, and now my parents' grandchildren. I mean, to do with it what we want. So it's, I mean, that's their legacy. I mean, that's I know they got a very small mortgage, if they even have a mortgage at all. So, I mean, that's something that I think everybody should have that opportunity to leave their kids an asset like that, or something they can sell. Because ultimately, I mean, not to sound morbid or anything, but when that day comes, it's just like, okay, well, we got this $700,000 asset. What do you guys want to do with it?
Right.
And it's going to be a pitfall of money, which is going to be a blessing. But again, that's just something. It's not only you just plant your roots in a community. And I moved around a lot as a kid. So that's probably the longest my parents have been at any house. They've been in there since 1996. So
wow.
So yeah. So I went off on a rant there. You asked me about baseball.
That's cool.
About
yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna just wrap up here. Is there anywhere that people can find you? Like, we're on the internet, we're on social media. Like, where can people find you?
Yeah. So I have a personal Instagram, the Josh Claudio, and then Legacy Group Home Loans Instagram. That's more business related. Personal Facebook, Josh Claudio. Let's see, Twitter. I'm really not on. I don't post on Twitter. I just go there to read the news. TikTok. I think I'm the Josh Claudio on TikTok. There's not a lot of Josh Claudios running around.
And then what about like just applying for a home loan, something like that, getting refi?
Yeah. So I want to talk to anybody that needs a home loan, whether you're buying a new home, an investment property, a vacation home, or you're just looking to get a lower rate. So you can click apply now at legacygrouphomeloans.com. And I've got a lot of information on there for anyone just looking for loan products or rate trends, anything like that. It's pretty informative. And then it links back to my business Facebook page too for whatever's going on with my business. So you'll probably be able to find this podcast on there soon. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for the share.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thanks.
Cool. Well, Josh, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being here. And as always, hope to see you next time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.